Hey everyone, Joey here. Welcome back to Joey Speaks About, which I think is the channel I'm going to upload this video to. And this is my end of the year review. I just felt like sharing some thoughts, some feelings, some hopes. Talk a little bit about my disappointment for the year that was 2024. So yes, you probably guessed this video is not going to be the most positive video in the world. So if you don't want to hear that kind of thing, then that's fine. Thank you for clicking on the video, and you can click off now. You're probably wondering why I'm showing you footage from this year's stage shows, and it's because obviously I did them this year. I did musical versions of Dracula and Frankenstein. They were the two main things I achieved this year. So I'm just going to show footage from... I haven't edited the video yet, obviously, so I don't know what you'll be looking at, but it'll be Dracula, or it'll be Frankenstein, or it'll be a combination of the two. So yeah, a lot of people like to share text, thoughts and feelings on their Facebooks or social medias. I decided to be a bit different. So you get a video. I'm linking this on my Facebook, Instagram, etc. Like I say, if you don't want to hear someone being very negative for, I don't know for how long, then I'm going to say some nice things, but a lot of the things I'm going to say are going to be, for people who know me, they know I get very negative at this time of year. So if it's not your thing, thank you for clicking. You can click away. For the rest of you who want to hear this, let's go. Oh, so yes, I started to share why I'm showing footage and not showing me on the camera, and it's because a while ago, not just on this channel, on my YouTube channel, my gaming channel, I decided that you're not going to see me in the videos anymore, because of reasons. One, my camera I think is terrible. Two, I don't like the look of my environment that I'm in. And three, I really don't like how I look on the camera anymore. Yes, I know, I started very negatively, but it's true. So, I don't want to be on the camera. I don't even like talking in my own voice. But I don't watch these videos back, which means that sometimes I do make mistakes, little editing mistakes, and things get left in that shouldn't get left in, but that's just part and parcel of me not being able to watch the video back, because I can't stand listening to my own voice. I know, it's very weird, it's very strange to a lot of people, but that's the truth. So, 2024, I did several shows this year. I did Reanimator at the start of the year in Edinburgh, which was, I suppose you could call it successful. I personally, having watched the video several times, cannot stand how I look in it. I made a mistake of attempting to cut my own hair, which I think looks awful in the video. I don't like the way I look in it. I don't think I suit the character, although I think I'm very good at it. I think I'm very funny in it. But sadly, I don't like how I look in it, which is very strange to say, but it's true. But apart from that, I think it's a very good show. It's a show I've done a couple of times. I've never been able to do the full cast version of it. I've always had to just do a version that is literally just me. And lo and behold, 2025, the first show of 2025 is Reanimator again. And once again, it's just me. And we'll get into why that is in a little bit. So did Reanimator in Edinburgh. I met someone who has had a big effect on the shows I did this year. I won't give anyone's surname away just in case they don't want to know that I'm talking about them in the video, but Raymond. His name is Raymond. And he was doing tech for Reanimator. He ended up being in Dracula, ended up helping out a lot with the choreography and the musical direction for Dracula. He was a big force in me having the confidence to go forward with Dracula, because I hadn't decided to start doing big shows again with big casts. And then I met Raymond on Reanimator, and coincidentally he's from, or his family, I believe. I may be misquoting. He'll correct me if I say anything that's not factually correct, but his family either from Hungary, or he was brought up in Hungary, or he lived there for a time. I'm not entirely sure, but anyway, the coincidence wasn't lost on me that I thought he would make a fantastic Dracula, and he did. He was an absolutely terrific Dracula. I wish I'd pushed him a bit more in regards to being scary and being intimidating, but Raymond did an absolutely fantastic job on Dracula. He did a great job doing tech for Reanimator, but I knew that, you know, he's too good a singer and he's too good an actor to waste just on tech. And he did help out with tech on Dracula as well. In fact, it was basically Raymond on his own who designed the lighting design for the show, with some input from me, but I'm not the best with tech. But anyway, that was my favourite thing to come out of Reanimator, doing it again. Wasn't necessarily my performance in it, though I think I was okay. It wasn't how it looked, although I do think it looked pretty good, because where we did Reanimator is a venue called the Banshee Labyrinth, and it has a big projection screen which basically covers the whole wall because they use it as a cinema, essentially. So I was able to project scenery, and it looked pretty good. It looked quite nifty. If you want it, by the way, any of the shows I talk about in this video, they're all on the Shock Horror Theatre YouTube page. So if you want to have a look, if I intrigue you with anything I'm talking about, you can go onto the Shock Horror. Just type in Shock Horror Theatre on YouTube and you'll see it. You'll see the logo. Go on the page. It's basically nothing but my theatre shows in their entirety, filmed, because I always film the shows. So if you want to check it out, no obligation, you can go check it out there. So that was Reanimator. I think it's the third or fourth time I've done it. It definitely wasn't my favourite time doing it. It wasn't. I don't think it was the best performance, but like I say, I made a really good connection on that show, which led on to Dracula, which was, I haven't done a big show, what I class as a big show, since 2014. I did a show in 2014 called The Raven, which was a superhero musical, and as per usual, I did not have the money, I did not have the resources to really do it properly, but it was a very good show. That's one that's not on my YouTube. There's a production of The Raven on my YouTube, but it's not the one I did in 2014. And I had a falling out with a couple of people on that show, which has kind of become a recurring theme with my shows, which is really unfortunate. And most of the time, the falling outs always come down to money. The shows don't make money. It's sad. It's really sad, because I've been trying desperately with every single show to try and make it financially viable for not just for me, for everyone involved with it, and for whatever reason, I just can't do it. I try and sell tickets, I try and promote, I try and get the cast to promote, I try and get the cast to sell tickets, and they always put in the effort, but it never works out how. So, for example, I always advertise the shows as profit shares, which is genuine, that's true. But I think there's a common misconception with what a profit share actually is. It does not mean that whatever ticket sales the show makes, I'm going to split. That's not profit, because if the show, for example, costs me £1,000 to put on, just for talking's sake, but it only makes £900 in ticket sales, I've not made a profit. And obviously with the £900, that I have to then use that to either pay the bills that haven't been paid by me just to get the £1,000 to put the show on. So for example, and I shouldn't admit this because it's very, people are going to call me stupid and naive and all the rest of it. So for example, I might not pay my rent for 2 months because I know that I will then have £600, let's say, to then use on the show. Now, obviously that rent still has to be paid, so when I make the £900 back in ticket sales, the hypothetical 900 that I'm talking about, I still have to pay my £600 of rent back. I just don't do it at the time. I use the money to put the show on, and then I will do it. And I think that's where the misconception comes in, because I pay for the shows on my own. Obviously people do pay, because people pay to travel to rehearsals, they pay for costume bits, they pay for prop bits that they want. But in talking about like the £1,000 hypothetical that I was talking about before, if I pay £1,000 out, either by not buying food, or by not paying my rent for 2 months in a row, or not paying my council tax, or not paying my broadband bill, those are still things that have to be paid when the show ends. I just don't pay them right away so that the show gets done. Then when the show's over and I get the £900 back of this, £900 hypothetical ticket sales I'm talking about, I still have to use that. So there's no money to split with the cast. There's no money to split with my composer, who now is kind of Luke permanently. Luke didn't do The Raven. I hadn't met Luke yet, but I'm just saying for talking's sake. So that's where I think a lot of the disappointment comes from, is I have kind of learned to live with the fact that the shows are not financially successful, but my cast it's difficult to have to accept that. I want to reward everyone who works on the show, not me, because I don't get, my reward is the show happening, whether that's the right way to think about it or not. But that's my reward. I obviously want to make this a financially viable, for many reasons. I need to have a career, and this is what I chose. When I was in school, when I left school, I've not been able to keep a job because my heart just isn't in it to do your 9-to-5 everyday job, even though it means getting money, even though it means all the rest of it. My heart's just not in it. I want to love what I do, and that's why I have to live where I live. It's why I can't go on holiday. It's why I can't move from here. It's why I can't do a lot of things, and I know that. So I want this to be a career. And I want to reward everyone who works on my shows. And you're going to hear me talk about this a lot throughout this video, so I'm sorry if I start repeating myself and I go back to talking about the same thing again. But that's basically what happened on Raven. I couldn't pay anyone at the end of it because we didn't make any money. I borrowed money as I always do, from my dad. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, the theatre, I had to borrow money from him just to pay for it, and I couldn't even pay him back. When all was said and done, because I have to either not pay certain bills or borrow from this person or borrow this or borrow that, it's so much that I can't pay it back in the end. 9 times out of 10. I've never been able to do it with my shows. But anyway, that's what happened on Raven. So I had a big falling out with the composer. I had a big falling out with someone who was in the show. I haven't worked with anyone from that cast ever again since then. Whether it was to do with that, whether it was to do with they didn't like me or whatever the reason may be, that was that. I worked with that cast the first time on that show, and that was the last time. So I hadn't done a big show, what I deem as a big show. When I say a big show, I mean a show that's going to need over 10 people in it. Kind of big scope is what I call it. So I hadn't done one since 2014. So Dracula this year, 10 years after having done Raven, was me returning to trying to do big shows again. I had done shows with only 2 people in them, with myself and someone else. I've done a couple of them. They again were not successful for whatever reason, because of the venue I would have to use, the money I had to work with. It's fine. So I decided, met someone on Reanimator, met Raymond, like I said, got a bit of courage to go forward, assembled a cast for Dracula that I adored. Some of the people who, not just Raymond, but I met an actor called James, who we had our differences, very different people. He's a lot younger than me, but I still say he's, next to Raymond, he was the most talented person. The most talented person, and he was in Dracula and he was in Frankenstein. So talented, and we were very different. I mean, we had our differences. We would argue, we would bicker. I would get annoyed at him. He probably thinks I'm a complete cock, which, to be honest, I am. And I wish I wasn't, but a lot of the stuff that happened this year, the negative stuff, I deserved it to happen. And I hate admitting that. I hate beating myself up about that, but I do. I deserve it, because I could have done so much better. And a lot of people are going to say, no, you couldn't have done anything better. You couldn't have done this. You should have just been more transparent. You should have just stood up at the start of the production and said, look guys, no one is probably going to make money on this. So if you're not okay with that, step away now. And I didn't do that, and I should have done that. I should have stood up and I should have said, look, the chances of making money on this show, in my experience, are incredibly slim. Incredibly slim. So you're not doing it for the money. I'm asking you to do it either as a favour to me, or because you want to do it, or because you like the material, or whatever. And I didn't do that. And I should have done that. And that was my biggest failing this year. My biggest failing this year was not opening my mouth. In a lot of ways. I don't think I'm a very good director, and it's because I'm afraid to say certain things that I think directors have to say. Like, oh, do it again, or that's not very good, let's do this with it, or stop doing that, or whatever. I try, but I think I just don't have the presence in the room to be a very good director. And that's fine, I can admit that. I consider myself to be a pretty good writer, although I've heard people say, oh, you just copy that out of books. That's not true. That's not true. I mean, that's how I taught myself to write when I was a kid. I would transcribe Broadway shows from audio tapes. And it got me into a routine where I would transcribe the script. And then that developed from transcribing. So, for example, I took the Broadway show of Jekyll and Hyde. I found the 1990 production they did of it, which is very different. The Frank Welltorn show I'm talking about. And I transcribed the whole thing. It was a bootleg, obviously. But I used to do trading, musical theatre, bootlegs and stuff. Videos and audio things and stuff. So I got a copy. Sadly, I don't have it anymore. I wish I did, because it was great. Of the 1990 production of that, and I transcribed it, but just by listening to it. Oh, he says, you know, all the dialogue and all the song lyrics and stuff that I could make out. They weren't 100% accurate. It was just what I could make out from the recording. I even did it with some German shows. I did there was a German show called Tanz der Vampire. There was no English version of it yet, so I rather foolishly thought I could translate it using a dictionary. And I did it word by word. This audio... no, for that I think I actually had the script, but the script was in German. But I took it, and there was no Google Translate. This was before Google Translate and all that. So I translated the script word for word, pretty much using a German dictionary. And that's how I taught myself to write. I then went on to develop my own versions of like Jekyll and Hyde, Phantom of the Opera, stuff like that. My own lyrics, my own, my own versions. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. The point I'm making is, I think I'm a pretty good writer. I used to think I was a really good actor. I have my doubts now. I think I'm an okay singer. But I don't think I'm a very good director. And a lot of that comes down to me not opening my mouth. And I think that's my biggest failing for 2024 was not standing up at the start of mostly Frankenstein I'm talking about, because that's where I feel the worst about this year was Frankenstein. Dracula, not so much. I think our Dracula kind of just got accepted that it didn't make any money. So, and just to get Dracula done, I had to not pay my rent. I didn't pay my council tax. I didn't buy food when I should have bought food, so I then had to borrow money off family just for basic things, because I had to spend all the money on rehearsing and buying props and making, the set and stuff like that. I chose to do all that myself, and Dracula ended up costing, I might be misquoting, but it was something like £1,600. And we didn't make that in ticket sales, so Dracula was not profitable. Because, I paid Luke, who's the composer, and I have to pay for the rehearsal space, which was started off at $37.50 a week, and then it went up to £50 because I wanted to do extra hours, and then we ended up rehearsing. Someone else ended up doing one of my shows. Did a very good job of it. And they were rehearsing on the same day we were, so £50 a week is what it cost me to rehearse, and it's what it will continue to cost me to rehearse, because I will be continuing on. It'll just be very different. And we'll get into that. So yes, my biggest failing for 2024, I think, in regards to, a lot of things with me, is not opening my mouth. Often when I'm feeling certain ways, I will not tell people. Of course I will, like a classic attention seeker, make a video like this, and I'll talk about things in the video, and I'll say, well, if people wanted to know how I was feeling, they should have gone and watched the video. I haven't made a video like this in a very long time. I'm only doing it because we're approaching the end of the year, and I do get very down, and it's a bit different to imagine me typing all this up and putting it on Facebook. It would be ridiculous. So I didn't open my mouth. I should have stood up and said, guys, I don't make money on my shows. I know it's advertised as a profit share, and I assure you, if the show makes profit, we will split it between the 14 of us, 15 of us, however many of us there were. But the odds of that happening are not likely. And I maybe should have looked and not picked a bit, Dracula or Frankenstein to put on, because they're obviously going to cost more money, because you need, specific props, you need specific costumes. I had a lot of costumes already. There were people who bought their own. I was very grateful to the people who did that. James bought a ton of stuff for Dracula, and I'm sure he bought it was his stuff anyway that he used for Frankenstein. Raymond had some stuff for Dracula. There was makeup, Penny. I'm not going to be saying anyone's surname, and also if I mention anyone in the video and you listen to this and you don't like the fact you've been mentioned in the video, tell me and I'll trim it out. But yes, Penny, who was in Dracula and in Frankenstein, she bought a lot of stuff herself and provided her own. But I still had to buy a lot. And okay, yes, I bought my own costume, obviously, for Dracula and then Frankenstein. Well, the reason for Frankenstein, this was point of contention. We got into a bit of a thing after Frankenstein had ended about why the show hadn't made any money. And I said, well, I had to buy a costume. And of course, it was my costume I bought. So that was kind of like, well, why would you put that on the budget? That was your choice. The reason for that was because another character took the costume I had for myself. So I would have had to buy this other character their costume anyway. It just so happened that the costume I was going to wear fit them, so I let them wear it and I bought a new costume for myself. But it could have easily been the other way around. And I think that was a part that I was unfairly criticised for, was, well, you bought your own costume and you're putting that on the budget. That shouldn't count. When we've all bought stuff, and there were people who did, but there were people who didn't. There were people who didn't spend a penny on their costumes because they were given them. And that's fine, because that's what it's supposed to be, but I kind of saw it as a team thing. Okay, people might buy this, but I have to buy this. Paid for the rehearsals, did the set, got some of the, got a lot of the props, Frankenstein, I'm jumping about, but Frankenstein ended up costing more than I even wrote down, because Luke was paid for Frankenstein, for certain parts of Frankenstein back in 2016 for the score. I hadn't put the show on yet, but that would still count towards the budget. But anyway, I left a lot of that off. And there was a whole consensus that, oh, well, you must have made profit. Even if I had made £100 profit on Frankenstein, by the time you then split that between the 14 people who were in the show, it would have been less than £10 each. Even if I had made £100, which I didn't. And it's sad. It's sad that a lot of the people who were in Dracula with me, like Penny and James, Raymond, some other people, because of the way Frankenstein ended, it's so sad that I'll probably never work with these people again. And I do feel awful, because I thought, rather foolishly in my head, I thought I was making friends for life and castmates, and I was getting to the point when I was going to register Shock Horror Theatre as a company, either as a charity or as an Amdram society. But then when we had the falling out on Frankenstein, and I'm sure there was several reasons. I mean, someone said I was a crappy writer, another person said I overstepped the mark in terms of how I treated people in the rehearsals and stuff, and maybe they're right. Because it's very stressful. That's why I'm not a good director. I would love to bring someone in to just direct. and I could just sit back and pay for it, obviously, and act in it and have written it. And there was another show of mine that was done this year called Amanda that I didn't direct it, I wasn't in it, and to me it was a very successful show because of that. And sadly, the people who put that together, I don't think will do another of my shows, but they all did a terrific job on it. Terrific job. So I wanted to mention them in this video. Amanda was done the weekend before we did Frankenstein, and it was terrific. Was it perfect? No. There was a couple of things, me being me, Mr. Perfectionist. There was a couple of things I would have done differently and all that, but they did very well, and I'm very proud of them for putting that together. Maybe I was too ambitious this year. Trying to do Dracula, trying to make money on it, trying to do it with no money, sacrificing bills to make it happen, sacrificing my mental health to make it happen. I had several breakdowns on Dracula. Famously, I've told this story to several people. I won't go too much into the details, but the night before we were due to start rehearsals, I ended up hurting myself deliberately, and my arm has not recovered from it. But yes, so it wasn't plain sailing. It never is for me with my mental health. It's never plain sailing. I've now been living on my own for 2 years, something like that, and every single day is a struggle for me. I don't want to turn this video into another video about me talking about mental health, but I just wanted to mention it, that I do the shows because I need to do it, because I think it's my purpose to do these shows. I think it's why I'm here. And when you take that away, people have said, oh, you shouldn't do it because it affects your mental health, or you may never be successful, and I know for a fact people don't believe I will ever be successful doing this. I know for a fact certain people do not believe I will ever be successful doing this, and they're either humouring me, or they're just letting me get on with it, or maybe they think I'll give up eventually. I don't know, but I never will. That's the thing. I will never give up, and I am fully convinced these shows will kill me. I know that. I've already admitted that. If the shows don't kill me, then just me being me will. And that's a very depressing thought, and I think about it every single day. And it's tough. So I met a lot of very special people this year for the very first time. Like I say, James, Raymond, Emily, who was part of Dracula, who was the mastermind behind putting Amanda together. She was terrific in doing that. Other people, Ari, who was in Dracula and Frankenstein, who then had a personal tragedy of her own. I hope I get to work with Ari again, because I really appreciated her help. I had a bit of a breakdown on Dracula, and it was Ari that came out and sat with me, and it was terrific. And because Ari's kind of round about my age, I would say I related more to her than anyone else, because, you know, we've got kind of similar life experience, being round about the same age. Ari is a beautiful, beautiful person, and I hope I get to work with her again. And I'm really sad that something happened to her, which I'm not going to go into on this, because it's not my place to. But yeah, Ari's a wonderful person. So I met Ari. We may hopefully still continue to be friends. Hopefully we'll get to do shows together again. That would be, I would appreciate that. There was so many people. I met someone came in on Frankenstein, stepped in when Raymond had to pull out from being, because he was originally the creature in Frankenstein. But we all go through personal things, and it has knock-on effects, so he had to step aside from being in the show. He still did the tech, which I was eternally grateful for. He was the musical director for Frankenstein as well. So someone stepped in to be the creature, and I thought, they were an amazing person. An amazing person. Amazing. What they managed to do in the show, and if you want to see, just watch the video. They play the creature. I don't want to say their name in case I'm not allowed to, or they don't want me mentioning them by name, so that's fine. But they did an amazing job with the time we had left. And I was hoping we would go on and do, but then of course I had to confront the reality of they thought they were getting paid for the show. And the show didn't make any money. And is that my fault? Yes, because I have to take the blame. The captain has to go down with the ship. And I'm the captain of this particular ship, so they were amazing. I met a lot of amazing people this year. Shannon, who was in Frankenstein. Michael, who was in Frankenstein. Sean. Sean was terrific, very funny. He was in Frankenstein. Ben, who played my Dracula in Frankenstein, he was terrific as well. Everyone was terrific in their own way. Everyone brought something to the... Be it Dracula or be it Frankenstein, they brought something to those shows. And at the end of 2024, looking back, and I have to reflect, most of them will not work with me again. And that's sad. Because I thought, you know, I would have friends, and I thought I was going to register the company, and I thought, well, that'll bring in, I'll be able to apply for funding, and that'll take the stress off with the money thing. And as I stand now at the end of 2024, obviously I can't do that because I now have to make more connections again, and I hope I do. But until then, I'm going to have to go back to doing very small shows. So for 2025, I'll be doing Reanimator again, which will just have me in it, and a couple of other shows, so it's going to be a very lonely year, but in a way, I don't know, it's been kind of building to this. I had my own personal tragedy 3 years ago. I had to move out of the house I loved living in an area I loved living in, with someone who I still love to this very day, and will probably never get over it. I went homeless, I had to go homeless, I've been put in an area I can't stand. I can't see a way out of it, out of getting away from this area, other than being successful. Making enough money that I can do that. And that's not going to happen until either I give up on the shows, which I'm not going to do, and find a different career, which I never will, or just persevering. And it's madness. I know it's madness. People have been telling me, if you were going to succeed at it, you would have done it by now. And that's maybe true, but I don't want to believe that, because if I believe that, I won't be here anymore. And that's a sad... I told you this was going to be a sad, pathetic video, but that's a sad thing to admit. If I said I'm not doing the shows anymore, I wouldn't last very long. Because I have my gaming, and I have my gaming channel, and that, very much like my theatre stuff, is not going very well. So, if this year has taught me anything, it's probably I'm gonna have to just go forward on my own. Because people, the more people I bring in, the more people I seem to disappoint. When the show doesn't perform financially, or and I don't want to continue on my own. I want to do big shows. I want to do Dracula scale, and I want to do Frankenstein again, and I want to do Phantom of the Opera, and I want to do Jekyll and Hyde, and I want to do Jack the Ripper. A show of mine I've not done yet, because I need a big cast for it. I want to do Raven again. I've got loads of shows, but I also have a lot of the smaller ones, and maybe if I can prove that I can make it work with just me, then maybe people will come back, and maybe I'll have the courage to put out ads again, and maybe I can live up to what I promise when I say it's going to be a profit share and it's going to be this and it's going to be that. I don't know. So this year I got to do Reanimator, I got to do Dracula, I got to do Frankenstein. Someone else did my Amanda. Was it a successful year? No. Do I feel better at the end of this year than I did at the end of last year? No. If anything, I feel worse. Because, well, that's maybe not fair to say I feel worse. I still feel very unfulfilled. I still feel very sad. I still feel completely on my own. In a lot of ways. Will it be a happy new year? I don't know. Maybe I can prove it this year. But I do say that at the end of every single year. I say, next year maybe I can prove it. I'll be 40 at the end of next year. That's a lot for me to consider. I hope I can make it successful. I hope I can learn from the lessons of this year, although a normal person would say, clearly I can't make this work, I'm giving up. I'll try it, I tried, I have failed. I've been trying to do it for 20 odd years since I left school. Maybe I'll just get a normal job and, okay, I won't be happy, but I'll have money. But you see, I can't do that. I can't do that. I've tried so many times and I just can't do it. I just cannot do it. For whatever reason, call it I'm abnormal, I'm lazy, whatever you want to call me. I've heard it all before. My heart just isn't in it. If my heart isn't in it, I won't do it. It's as simple as that. And I've learned that. I won't do it for money, I won't do it for any reason because it involves me being unhappy. And okay, people will say, well, you're unhappy now because, you're not, your shows aren't, nothing's happening. But yes, but I'd rather be unhappy in this way than unhappy. It's not going to make a lot of sense, but I'd rather be unhappy like this than unhappy doing a crappy call centre, bar, bank, call, whatever job. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Did I have a good 2024? Because I'm trying to wrap this up. No. No, I didn't. I thought I got halfway through and I met a lot of amazing people. And I'm not sure if I'll get to work with a lot of these amazing people ever again. I probably won't because of the fallout on Frankenstein, and that's the saddest thing of all. The saddest thing of all is these are very... And I'm not sad for them, because I think people like James, who are incredibly talented, are going to go on to bigger and better things. And they'll just maybe my Dracula and my Frankenstein will be a footnote. when they're successful. And there are people who do burlesque acts, and I'm sure they'll be very successful. Everyone who was in my shows in one way or another will be successful. They just might not be successful with me, which is sad, but I clearly didn't perform. I didn't do well enough. So I will take, Captain is going down with the ship. And going forward, Reanimator's a good show. I've got a couple of ideas for some one-man shows involving Edgar Allan Poe and other things, so you can all look out for that. But yes, this is my depressing, dark 2024 year of review. And all I can do is go into 2025 with the same determination. I think it could be a lonelier 2025 because I'm talking about doing shows on my own, going to rehearsals on my own. I spend a lot of time on my own anyway, but I hope 2025 will be the year that will change it. And I can miss a success of this. I can move away from here. And I can go on holiday. And I can meet someone very special. Will I? I guess we'll have to wait till the end of 2025 and I'll do a video then. So yes, this has been as downbeat as most of my content is. But being optimistic for a minute or so, I did meet a lot of amazing people this year and I worked with them, and I didn't do the best job, as I never do. I always look back afterwards and think of at least a million ways I could have done it better. Whether that's a good thing, whether that's a bad thing, that's up to you to decide, but I let a lot of people down this year. And when I say that, I'm just talking in terms of, I'm trying to keep family situations and friend situations, but out of this, because when I discuss this kind of content, it's always to do with me talking about career. I've kept relationship stuff out of this because I've made enough content about that. I didn't have a good year. I've said that so many times during this. I didn't. Not in terms of what I wanted to achieve. I just hope next year is better. Not just for me, but for everyone else. But being selfish, you know, this is a video about me. I really, really hope it's better for me. And yeah. Happy New Year, everyone. And yeah, bye.